someone said, ask about the grizzly ambush. And then someone said that you saved your mates with a ski pole. Is there a story there?
There's a story there.
There is. I can try to do a very quick rendition of it if you like. We were on a Fognak Island, which is Alaska, hunting Roosevelt elk. It was Steve Ernella and Remy Warren were the hunters. I was there producing, directing. I think we had me plus 3 in the crew. And Steve had killed a bull. We put half of it in a tree, packed the other half out back to camp. And some people might say, why don't you just pack it all out? I've never seen a more densely built animal than a Roosevelt elk on a Fognak Island. I mean, it looked like a regular elk, but the meat just kept coming off of it and coming off of it and coming off of it. We packed as much out as we could. It got processed in Kodiak. The processed meat with 0 bones in it, processed meat packaged, was 350 pounds.
Oh my
no
God.
ground.
That's
a lot.
Is
like most elk
is the food source?
Yeah, most elk I kill, I'm looking at like 200 pounds. Yeah, I think Roosevelts have a little bit more body, smaller antlers. It's kind of how they're, when people compare those to Rockies, they're like, oh yeah, Rockies bigger antlers, Roosevelt's bigger bodies. But anyways, so we come back 2 days later because we got back to camp at like 4 a.m. We were bushwhacked. It's a cold, wet, rainy place. It was just sucking the energy out of us. So we go back in there. We get there midday to this place where we hung up the and you can hear this whole story from 6 different perspectives on the MeatEater podcast. I believe the episodes are called The Meat Tree, Part 1 and Part 2. But we get back in there. We glass the meat tree from like 300 yards away for 20 minutes. Don't see a bear around it. And I guess I should preface this. We're prepared to encounter a grizzly bear. You get a letter from Alaska Fish and Game that says, hey, if you kill an elk on this hunt, like the carcass will be taken by a grizzly bear. Like it's gonna happen. You need to plan accordingly. So we're going in there, we think prepared. We glass it, nothing. We decide to go to the meat tree. And we come in yelling, hooting, hollering, bear sprays pulled, pistols pulled. Get to the tree, no sign of bear, nothing. And where we make our mistake of the day is that at that point, we're like, let's sit down and have a sandwich and make some tea. It was wet and cold and rainy. So it's the type of place where you're always wanting to drink a hot drink. And we're like, yeah, that's a great idea. In retrospect, we should have gotten the meat, put on our backpacks, and walked out to a very more open area where we could see, all around us. Instead, we sit down underneath half of an fresh, elk meat hanging in a tree above us. And like the farthest you can see is like maybe 25, 30 yards. And some of it, the alders are as close as like 5 or 7 yards. And we get the water going. I remember hearing the sound of like the whisper light hissing and the water kind of starting to bubble. And the sandwiches has just gotten tossed out. I was complaining to Steve about how it looked like his sandwich had more meat and cheese than mine did. And his response was, well, if you want a bigger sandwich, you need to get your own hunting show. It literally at that moment, he answers that. And the dude next to me goes, I think I just heard something. And then he says, oh shit, bear. And I look up and there's full-size grizzly bear running at us. And he's, 20 yards and closing fast. I have just enough time to hop up from my seated position, throw my sandwich down, and for some odd reason, don't know why, because I had a pistol with me, I had bear spray with me, but I end up standing and I'm holding 2 trekking poles like I'm at bat playing baseball. And when the bear's head is, roughly a trekking pole's distance away from me, I take a swing thinking, well, I'm about to get run over here, but at least I should go down swinging and It's better than just standing here. And the last thing I thought would happen, and I made contact, and instead of bowling me over, the bear flips almost 180 degrees and takes off back down the hill. And I was pretty wide-eyed, in that moment.
It's a lot of
what's
adrenaline.
even crazier though is oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, actually, by that point it was probably in my body. I don't know how fast it takes for your body to produce it, to put it in there, but from the time that the guy said bear to the time that I hit the bear couldn't have been 2 seconds. The bear leaves. One of our guys, Garrett Smith, somehow gets entangled in the roots of this tree. And as the bear's leaving, falls over his own heels, trips like backwards, lands on the bear's back. And nobody saw me hit the bear with the ski poles. Okay, I'll put that out there. As far as anybody else ever is going to know, it could be a completely made up story. But we have multiple witnesses that see what it looks like the bear taking one of our guys away. At the moment, I didn't even know who it was, but all I could see was like a bear and a human moving together. And in my head, I'm thinking, man, he's got somebody, and he's leaving. Remy and I take off after the bear. At this point, we have our pistols, and we didn't make it a couple strides. And Garrett comes running back over the crest of the hill, just a few yards away. And, just with the biggest saucered eyes you've ever seen, and I think he literally rode the back of a grizzly bear for, a second or maybe two before he fell off. And it was then it got really intense. That's when like the emotions flowed, and like it was a little bit hectic. We get calmed down, the people that weren't as calm. The bear circled us. We could hear it. We never saw it again, but we could hear him popping its jaws and clacking its teeth in the alders around us. It never charged again. We never saw it again. We got the meat down out of the tree. We quickly loaded our packs and then marched our way to the big open meadow where we should have been in the first place. And then we reassessed. But yeah, it was quite the few seconds of my life. And I remember, but when my wife adds to the story, if she was here, she would say, yeah, when I talked to you 3 days later, the instant that you said hello, I could tell in your voice that something had changed, that something was different. And, I proceeded to tell her the story.